I
Just
think
put in
the
your
coding
time.
versus programmer distinction is kind of silly.
Oh, come on, Jared. Now we have to
Ooh,
like
disagree. I disagree. Hard disagree.
wait.
Should I save that for unpopular
I
opinions?
I need more.
No, we got to move on. Well, I mean, I don't. I guess I don't. We should play maybe a little bit of the audio from Leslie Lamport, or at least let people go listen to what he had to say about it. And Johnny described it a little bit, but he does make this distinction between being a coder and being a programmer. And I think he elucidated it in a way that was okay. I think that these are interchangeable terms that mean different things to different people, and we end up splitting hairs and inventing our own definitions of the words in order to kind of do a weird form of gatekeeping where we're like, you're not a programmer, you're a coder. And I don't know. I just feel like, come on, guys, we're all trying to do the same stuff here. So that's my hot take on it.
Now, people who actually say that though in real life, yeah, those are d-bags. Don't listen to that nonsense.
Agreed.
Like this is something that when you're doing some introspection and you say, hey, like, what does someone like, Leslie Lamport mean when he says there's a difference between a coder and a programmer within the context of the things that he was building and actually, putting together and innovating on? Like, what does he mean in that context, right? Or if you go into any other, company and they say, do they say, oh, for these people, we consider them coders, we pay them less than those who we consider programmers, right? I mean, nobody actually does this, right? So it's supposed to be something that helps you. Personally, I think it's introspection, right? Like, am I coding? Am I programming? Am I engineering? I don't tend to use coder versus programmer. I tend to use coder and engineer more readily than I do programmer.
What's wrong with programmer?
Nothing wrong with programmer. I think engineering is.
I agree.
I think engineering is what happens when you add time to the mix. Right. So, or your decisions, good decisions.
But that's your definition of engineer. I think that we all kind of create these definitions because I've had these conversations with hundreds of people and they all define it a little bit differently. And a lot of times it's positioning. And I don't think that's what he was doing. But I think what he was doing was putting two words on what I consider what we like busy work and then like hard work. He's like, here's like where I need to be creative and thoughtful and stuff. And then the rest of the time I'm coding. And it's like, well, that's not how other people use the terms. So I felt like it was a weird play, but I mean, in his headspace, if it makes sense, I'm not mad at him or anything. I just think that when we tend to use coder, programmer, developer, engineer, architect, we're positioning, and coder, it tends to be at the bottom of that totem pole. And people, I agree with you, people do that. They're kind of D-bags, but they too tend to try to kind of do that. And so I just think it's all kind of silliness.
Yeah, I can see where. Yeah, if you don't know who Leslie Lamport is, because like he's the same person that's like unit testing is BS. You should be writing TLA plus instead. So like
I heard him say that. I was kind of interested in the TLA plus thing. I'm like, dang, am I a total loser?
Like, yeah. Brush up on my math here.
Once again, he's a mathematician. He's like, why are you taking this like plugging? Oh, does addition work? Let me add 2 + 2 and 4 plus. Like, no, just write a proof to make it work. But I think the interesting thing I think the reason what he said about coders versus programmers resonated with me so much is because something I think I've been talking about for like 4 years now of like, there are people that love to study the language and love to, write the language well and do that well. And then there are people that are trying to tell a story with. And I feel like the programmers are the people that are trying to tell a story. They're trying to solve a problem. And they might not be the best at writing actual code, right? I think there are plenty of novelists out there who are absolute crap with the English language and like their vocabulary is super tiny, but they tell phenomenal stories. And then there's another group of people who are like absolutely fantastic with the English language and like know all of the little intricacies and like read the Chicago Manual of Style to themselves to go to sleep at night, right? And I think but those people are like extremely necessary to us. And I know people who have, not me. I try, but
okay.
But I feel like for us as an industry, like, we're missing that, right? Because like the writing industry, those people are called editors, and they are in some regards at the top, right? You think of the editor-in-chief of a newspaper, that's top dog, and that's not a person who's a writer. That's a person who's an editor, and that's like a different training skill, right? I remember talking to Angelica once, and she mentioned how when you're in J school, you can choose to be a writer or an editor, and you go down these different paths and you learn different things. And I think that's a distinction we need to make as an industry, because the reason we can be so, we can kind of swap these words out so easily is because we haven't taken the time to really say, but does the distinction between these two roles matter? And I think it does, right? I've run into a lot of people who are excellent at taking code that's written and making it phenomenally better, like getting better algorithms in there, making it cleaner, doing all of that sort of stuff. But if you ask them to write the code themselves, they'll be like, oh, right? They'll be like, that's not what I do. And there's also people that are like really good at like solving the problem, but don't use efficient algorithms, don't design the code well, don't write comments or document anything. And I think you need to have both of those people in the organization. And I think it's valuable to kind of separate those two things. And I feel like that is, in his own special way, the thing that Leslie Lamport was trying to get at.
I think that's fair. And I do think he was being introspective, like Johnny says. And I don't think he was being obtuse or damaging in any way. I agree with you, Chris. I think that we need to go through that work. If we could go through that work and have like an RFC or a spec that said like, here's what these different roles mean, and we're all going to agree, then I would be okay with it. It's that they mean different things to different people. And I hear people using them as a way of positioning or gatekeeping a lot. And I think that does more harm than good.
But. Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. Like we should be looking at these as positions on equal footing, not as like, oh, you're a coder, that's like, you're not as good as me. Like I don't like that. I don't like when people do those things. So anyway.
All right, sorry for throwing that bomb in there if you're trying to transition.
Last minute, like,
aren't you the producer? Are you supposed to be the one that's keeping us on time? Like,
I'll edit this whole part out.
Okay, time for unpopular opinions.